ecofictologists, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lovis and today I am going to share with you my list of top 10 favorite ecofiction titles that I have read in the last year. When I was first discovering ecofiction, I was looking for lists like this, lists that would give me an idea of what ecofiction was like and how broad a genre it can be, and whether it was a genre where I wanted to make my home as a writer. And when people reach out to me, they often ask me for book recommendations, which I'm always more than happy to give, so I thought it would be fun just to do a little video about my top 10 favorites of the 50 odd titles that I have now read that could be considered ecofiction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each title and give a very brief description of the book, just so you know what genre it's in and what the general vibe is of the story. If you've been around the channel for a little while, you will recognize almost all of these titles because I have reviewed almost all of them, and I will link the playlist to all of those book reviews down below. I've now done just under 30 book reviews on the channel, so I thought it would still be fun for viewers who've been around for a while to see my favorites. Also, some of these titles were bought with donations from my lovely patrons. I appreciate you all so much. If you would also like to become a patron and buy me more books, then you can go over to patreon.com/ecofictology, and for a small monthly donation, you can get some perks, and I buy books. And I also support Love the Oceans, a marine conservation organization operating out of Mozambique. So it's win all around. I would love to see you there. On that note, with this top 10 list, I want to advertise that I'm going to be starting a kind of a read-along with me on my Patreon, where every month I tell you what my TBR list is for that month, and you can pick up those books and read along with me. We can have some discussions, and also you'll actually hear what I think about all the books I read. So on my channel, I do try to only review books that I enjoy or that taught me something or showed me something about what ecofiction can be. And I just quietly don't talk about the books that I don't enjoy so much. But if you're on the Patreon, you will get all the goss and you'll hear me dish about the books that I also didn't enjoy so much. So if you're into that, that's coming soon. That's starting in June, so I'll try and make it entertaining. Right, that's enough intro stuff. You're here for the top 10, so let's get into it. Number 10, Where the River Runs Gold by Sita Brahmachari. I reviewed this very recently. It's a near future where pollinators have disappeared and children are sent to farms in order to be kind of human pollinators to continue to produce crops. It's a dystopian, but it's a gentle version. It's written for children, but it spans ages beautifully, I think. It's all about family love and questioning the system that you're part of to make things better for everyone. Number 9, Skydance, Fighting for the Wild in the Scottish Highlands by John D. Burns. This book had me howling with laughter. It's one of the funniest books that I've read. It's all about the reintroduction of lynx into Scotland and how certain landowners are not so happy about this project. It's also about human-wildlife conflict with hen harriers and grouse shooting, very managed land. If you want to know more about those species and those conflicts, if you don't know so much about this topic, then check out my review of the book and also my interview with the author, because you'll learn loads. I love this book. I pretty much recommend it to everybody. Number 8, and I actually have this one in print, is The Water Knife by Paolo Bacigalupi. This is super dystopian America. water shortages all around. Water is now the most precious resource there is. There is a whole new political structure around water, and states with water are now kind of flooded with refugees from states without any water. And how do we deal with that? This is the terrifying kind of dystopia, a complete contrast to Where the River Runs Gold. But Bacigalupi does it so well that it's so plausible and believable, which is why it's so terrifying. But it's so impactful, it's so powerful. There are some trigger warnings here for sexual assault and torture, which gave me nightmares. So it's not an easy read, but it's an incredibly impressive book, which is why it's in my top 10. I still enjoyed it a lot, even though it made me feel all kinds of ways. Number 7, and the only one I have yet to review on this channel. Don't worry, it's coming soon. It's very reflective. Oh, my word. It's My Last Continent by Midge Raymond. This is a mystery romance set on a cruise ship in the Antarctic, and yeah, it's full of penguins. As in, it's full of penguin researchers. It's not a romance between penguins. I did have that comment from someone from the Discord server, so I thought I should clarify. I inhaled this book. I think I read it in a day, maybe a day and a half, but most of it was just in a day. I loved it. You learn so much about how penguins are doing under climate change and commercial fishing, but also like this booming Antarctic tourism and what effect that is having on the penguin populations. You learn loads. Highly recommend. Number 6 is Wilder Girls by Rory Power. This book falls into the ecological weird category, and that is exactly what it is. It's very weird. It's on an island where there's an all-girls boarding school, and the island is suffering from something called the tox, which affects everyone differently, and the people who are affected like change anatomically. They kind of evolve, and the wilderness around them becomes even more wild and dangerous. And the book gave me the creeps, but it completely had me hooked, and it dragged me through this story. It was so good. So highly recommend. Very weird, but very cool. At number 5, we have The Impossible Resurrection of Grief by Octavia Cade. I reviewed this just last week on this channel. It's all about ecological grief and the extinction of species. And it is dystopian, but somehow it didn't leave me feeling hopeless. It's an absolutely stunning novella. And if you're a marine biologist, it'll rip your guts out. Loved it. At spot number 4, we have Flight Behaviour by Barbara Kingsolver. You will probably recognize this title. It's on absolutely every single one of the eco-fiction lists that I came across. It's very popular, and for very good reason. The endangered monarch butterfly's migration pattern is all kinds of screwy because of climate change, and we learn all about it through the perspective of a woman who lives in a rural farming community, and a visiting scientist who comes trying to save the monarch butterfly. It's beautiful, it's heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time, and it just really gets into the issues of climate change denial and what it's going to take to change some of the more stubborn minds. Spot number 3 is The Dragon Keeper by Mindy Mejia. I also reviewed this month. This month has been a big book review month. In this book, a zookeeper is fighting for the welfare of the Komodo dragon that she's charged with looking after when that Komodo dragon produces viable eggs without ever having mated. It gives you a new look at what scientists will do to understand evolutionary anomalies, and you'll learn an absolute ton about the endangered status of the Komodo dragons and why they are endangered. 3 guesses who's to blame for that particular joy. It is beautifully written. It had me absolutely bawling my eyes out, which is always a good sign. So solidly number 3. And number 2, Lamentations of Zeno by Ilya Troyanov. This was such a cathartic book for me. It's about a glaciologist who experiences the death of his glacier because of climate change, and it was the glacier that he dedicated his entire academic career to, and it just documents his grief and his pain and his anger. This is not a happy book, if you couldn't tell by that description. Not a happy book at all, but rarely have I felt that reading was so therapeutic. I felt seen, I felt understood. Maybe that's because I'm a scientist working in conservation and climate change areas, but I saw a lot of my thoughts and sentiments reflected on the pages of this book, and I absolutely loved it, even though it was devastatingly sad. So this is way, way up there for me, not just for ecofiction titles, but books in general that I've read. And number 1, 3 Ways to Disappear by Katie Yocum. If you remember back to my review, I said then that this was one of my new favorite books, and it still is. It's all about conservation work with tigers in India, and you see so many different sides of this one single issue, and you realize that conservation issues are human issues, and you have to come at them from so many different perspectives to get anywhere. And it really gives you an appreciation of how hard conservationists work and NGOs work in order to make any kind of progress. It is beautiful, it's absolutely beautiful. I 100% recommend. And those are my top 10! Recapping them actually got me all excited about them again. They're really great books. Not just really great ecofiction books, but really great books in general. I think what I love most about this list is that it showcases the breadth of what ecofiction can be and what I've discovered it to be. We've got dystopias, we've got romance, we've got science, we've got some that are very sad and some that are absolutely hilarious. We've got weird. It's all welcome under the umbrella of ecofiction. I think that is the biggest thing that reading ecofiction has taught me. There are so many ways of telling these stories, and they're all valid. I am a little surprised that there aren't more eco-fantasy titles in my top 10. Considering that is the genre that I've chosen to write in, that's a little worrying. There are some that are on my radar, but it just so happens that fantasy novels tend to come in series, and I want to review the series as a whole, so hopefully soon you will get some eco-fantasy reviews. And I have recently discovered a few more titles, so we shall see. But might I mention that 6 of those 10 titles feature scientists quite heavily, and 5 titles focus on conservation work? That's not biased at all. This is a completely unbiased list of favorites. That's kind of an oxymoron in and of itself, isn't it? And also 2 titles, The Dragon Keeper and 3 Ways to Disappear, were published by Ashland Creek Press, and My Last Continent by Midge Raymond. Midge Raymond is the co-founder of Ashland Creek Press. If this is not a testimony to the great work that they are doing, I don't know what is. So go check them out. So that's it. That's my list of top 10 favorites. Let me know down in the comments below if you've read some of these titles, if you now want to read some of these titles, what you thought about them. I want to hear it all. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. It's mostly about reading and writing ecofiction. I post every Wednesday and sometimes occasionally on Mondays with bonus content. Like I mentioned before, you can become a patron by going to patreon.com/ecofictology and paying just a small amount a month, and you buy me books that I am eternally grateful for, and they add immeasurably to my life and my well-being. And you also support Love the Oceans, a good cause, so it's win-win all around. If you want some community around your eco-fiction, then join us on our Discord server, Rewilding Our Stories. You'll find book recommendations, opportunities for collaborations, and we're even doing a little book club at the moment, so we'd love for you to join us. The Facebook group is another great place to connect with other eco-fiction lovers, and the invite links to everything are in the description below. And that's all from me, so happy reading, and I'll see you next week, eco-fictologists. This was such a cathartic. And number 1. What is this? What is this?